It's Sunday 29th of May. Welcome to Sustainable Sailing. I'm back stuck in the hole in the bilge for the battery box, and Jane is outside. It's rather windy but a beautiful day, and she's just cutting the actual bulkhead so that we can carry on putting these bulkheads across the battery box. Got a bit more unboxing, well, sort of unboxing. In here we've got 4 215 watt 24 volt solar panels. These are the ones that are going to go to the aft of the boat, and that'll be built in the next few weeks. We're just waiting for the carbon fibre tubing that we're going to mount them on. So that was the first bit of unboxing, and then over here we've got some more. Yeah, we've already opened it, but the glands, watertight glands for the battery box, worth buying them directly from Index Marine. We were able to get black ones for quite a lot cheaper than the fancy white ones that all the chandleries sell. 4 glands for the 4 cables coming off the batteries. And then this is going to be a game changer, we hope, for our Dyneema rigging. This will make attaching the rigging to the mast much easier. This is where you need a Blue Peter. This is the one I prepared earlier, really, isn't it?
Showing your age there, then.
We've been trying to make our own equivalent of cheeky tangs. This is going to make that much easier. It is a 60mm diameter rod of FR4. We will be able to slice it at an angle. It sits on the mast, giving a beautiful smooth surface for a Dyneema loop to sit on that's angled correctly for the shroud. It's not cheap stuff, but compared to buying custom aluminium or titanium fittings, very much cheaper. Hopefully in the next few weeks again you'll see that turning into tangs for our rigging. And then here again, no real unboxing, but we've got 2 more sheets of 18mm plywood. More unboxing. This one not incredibly exciting, but something we needed, quite regularly needing this, but comes very efficiently. More bio epoxy, resin and filler.
Oh, more
and brushes. And sticks. And now this one is possibly the most scary and exciting delivery we've had in a very long time. Gives the game away a little bit on the packaging by saying it's from carbon fibre tubes. See if you can guess what's inside it. It is very light.
Ooh. Long tubes. Really short tubes. Medium-sized tubes.
There's a lot in here.
That's good. I thought the package didn't look big enough. Oh. Be careful. Oh no, that's not comfortable. All sizes.
It's going to take a bit of working out. It's Tuesday evening and we've been making more progress on the battery box. We've got the compartments for 1, 2, 3 pretty much finished, 4 ready to go in, so we've got to fit the two sides. Once the two sides are fitted and fiberglassed in, then they become the rigid base that everything else can be properly fixed to. At the moment we're pretty close on our levels for the floor. This end has got to go down just there, got to go down about another 5mm. Apart from that, we're almost spot on for levels, and then we can put our two floor pieces on. You can see here, this is where we have the two different levels of floor, one resting on there and one resting on there. We've made it easy for ourselves throughout, hopefully, by making it so the height difference between the two areas is exactly the thickness of this timber, 32mm square. So it makes it much easier to get the two levels working properly together. At the moment we keep having to move the ladder, and we're about to go back into night mode with a temporary floor here, so we can move the ladder across and we can get back to the after cabin. Welcome to the battery box update. It's Wednesday the 1st of June. Oh, we seem to have been doing this for a month. You can see that the platform for the batteries is nice and strong. I can stand on it. We are now ready to start epoxying in these side pieces, which will take the load onto the hull and be the waterproof side, so that water running down the bilge will run down the outside there. Obviously this is set up at the moment for the top level of batteries. These panels all lift out for the smaller batteries to go in the bottom. We've still we're a long way from going into the water yet, but when we get into the water there will be some packing around all of those batteries, and we're going to put some ventilation holes through so that as freely as possible air can move around the whole of the battery compartment whilst all the batteries been held firmly in place. Next job is we're going to coat the edges of these sides so that there's no bare wood touching fiberglass or wood or inaccessible. Screw and clamp them in place, and then we're going to secure the inside with 100mm fiberglass tape, and that will allow us to pour epoxy into that edge to get it all filled up nicely, and then we can put fiberglass tape on that joint as well. The other side here, the port side, is a shorter side piece because we're going to connect it onto this bulkhead here down there with some fiberglass tape, and we haven't yet built that end of the battery box, basically because we want to get this floor area in and have something to stand on while we're working there. You can see here, this is the step in the floor where all of that is behind the ladder and in the water, in the wet locker. One piece of floor up to there and another piece of floor from there, and I'll work out a nice bit of trim later to cover the end grain of the plywood there and protect it. Okay, on with the epoxying. Really happy to reach that point after so long. It's 8:15 on Wednesday evening. Jane is just mixing what we hope will be the last epoxy for the day. We have got the 100mm wide glass fibre tape around those side pieces. That's now tabbed into the hull, and we've put some thickened epoxy underneath, but we did it a little bit too early, so it was leaking out through the tape. So we've waited for that tape to go a bit cured, and we're going to just put a last bit of thickened epoxy so that underneath that side it's resting on solid thickened epoxy, which will then act as a fillet so we can fiberglass it in later. We've got two floor pieces cut, one for the higher area there and one here. I've cut them oversized for the moment. We won't worry about fitting them properly until we're ready to do the floors here and here, and then we'll make it a beautiful join between them. It's Monday morning. We had a couple of days off for family events on Thursday and Friday. Saturday was spent recovering, and Sunday was horrible weather. So Monday we're back at things, and this is where we have got to when we finished on Wednesday last week. We have our 2 floor pieces cut to size, just sitting loosely on the battery box, and they are nice and rigid, so that's good. I'll just take the ladder out of the way and lift these off, and then you'll be able to see where the batteries are underneath them. Here you can see the 4 300 amp hour batteries, which are the top level of our battery bank, and there is enough height clearance on this first half and on the second half for the 95 square millimeter cable that will run between them all and just go out through that bulkhead into the motor compartment under the multi-plus, where the positive and negative buzz bars will be. These will be a less than 7-inch cable from the last positive, or the first positive, to the fuse, which will be on the other side of that bulkhead. That's the top layer. Let's remove those, carefully minding my back because these ones are over 30 kilos each, and have a look at the lower level. Bit out of breath from lifting those 4 out the way, but there you can see the floors on which those batteries all rest. We've supported most of these on all 4 sides. There's a few more battens to put in so that all 4 are completely supported on all 4 sides, and there's a little bit of levelling to do, a bit of sanding. I think that one there is just a little bit high. There you can see how generous the space is around the lower batteries. We're going to be improving ventilation through these internal divisions, and these will end up having permanently fitted wedges around them so that they can't move. The floors that go above them will have grooves cut out for the wiring. We haven't got enough height at this point to put the wires completely under the floor, so it's about half and half, but you'll be able to see cutouts in those for the wires connecting these batteries, which again will go through the cable glands and out into the motor room. There are a few more supports to put in across some of these bulkheads to support the floor above these, and we still have to put an end piece on here. But once those are done, it's all sanded, all the timber will get epoxy coated, and later on when we've taken up that floor and that floor, we will fiberglass this side, the outside edge of the sides, to match the inside, so that all the timber that's facing the bilge could get wet will not just be epoxy coated but covered in fiberglass as well. Earlier in the video you saw us unboxing a whole range of different carbon fibre tubes. Let me just explain how they are designed to work together. This, for example, is an 800mm stanchion that we will be using right the way around the boat. Possibly, if we find it causes a problem, we might cut it down a little bit, as obviously the boat has much shorter stanchions than 800mm at the moment. So that's a 30mm tube. What we then have is a small length of the next size down, which just nests tightly inside it. So this 250mm length will be epoxied into the deck. So it'll be about that much of it that goes through the deck, resting on a backing plate, thickened epoxy all around it, and filled with thickened epoxy so that it doesn't get any water inside it. So those will be mounted permanently around the sides of the boat, and the stanchion will then be able to just drop on it and be held by a pin through it. That's essentially the system that Tula used on Tula's Endless Summer on their catamaran Adrenaline. That's one of the ways that we use the nesting tubes as a way of mounting something permanently through the deck, can't possibly leak, and the removable piece drops onto it. For our new push pit, we're doing much the same, except we've gone up a couple of sizes. So these tubes, which are 34 I think outside diameter, will go all the way through the deck, so that the bottom is bonded to the hull well below the deck, and some sticking up above the deck, fully bonded in as the permanent structure on which the push pit can drop. We have a even larger 38mm tube, which is going to be standing up vertically for the push pit, and we have some very much smaller diameter holes which will be going through this into their own little stub epoxied into the deck to give us cross braces. So where this goes through the larger diameter, it will be filled with thickened epoxy to hold that in place inside. So the push bit will have braces going towards the centre of the boat across the stern and going forward, so that they're held in both directions. The next bit of magic is, so with this standing upright as the push bit, we then need to get an arm sticking aft from it for the solar panels to be attached to. So we have the next size up, which can slip on top of that, and this time it will not be epoxied in place, and there will be a collar, I haven't got that out yet, epoxied in place here, so this drops on and rests on the collar and can turn. So that's a critical part of us being able to have our solar panels, so they can either be sticking out straight behind us or be spun round at any place to better catch the sun, or to come above the aft cabin for storage in case of storms or tight harbours. We then have a huge 2 metre long pole that will go, oops, let's just get rid of that. So this is coming up out of the, resting on the top of the push bit. This one will come through into there with a cross brace here, and so this arm will support 2 solar panels and will be able to rotate. Obviously it rotates a lot more freely when it's not going through a narrow doorway into the fore cabin. It also means, should we need to, we can lift this off and put it away, and the all of this jointing again will be both held with thickened epoxy, and in the case of these high stress joints, we will put carbon fibre tape epoxied around the outside of it as well. That gives us a support arm which is going to take 2 solar panels, but those solar panels need to be able to tilt. So we have, oops, next size up, collar goes on here, and for each solar panel there will be 2 of these little collars which can rotate around here. So for a solar panel we will have an arm coming attached to this collar, going out that way, sideways, and the solar panel will be mounted to that arm, and therefore be able to rotate around the horizontal support. So that will give us the articulation to be able to tilt the panels towards the sun, but also to be able to essentially stack the panels. So one of them can be rotated all the way underneath and be underneath the other, so we can halve the amount of space that the solar panels take up. It's a kind of a different way of doing things from what Mads has done on Athena in Sail Life, where his lower panels slide under. This rotation is, we think, going to be a lot easier for us to manage, and there will be a pin able to go through this collar to be able to lock it in different places. Once the panels are one underneath the other and we swing them round, they will be entirely above the aft cabin with a gangway between them, so we won't be taking up any extra space in harbours or have anything sticking out beyond the sides of the boat to catch waves. So the last bits of some very thin tubing, which will be diagonal braces to support the arms of these panels, so that the rigidity is not relying on the panel itself but on the frame that it is attached to. I know it's complicated, I'm probably not explaining that very well, but you'll see over the next few weeks how we build these. It's going to be somewhat experimental. We are confident that these tubes are far stronger than we need, despite the fact that they weigh almost nothing. Jane has done the calculations, and I think if I remember rightly, I should be able to almost hang off the end of this, despite that huge 2 metre overhang. Look forward to being able to get these installed over the next few weeks. Meanwhile, that'll be it for this week's video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and please comment and tell us we are completely bonkers with our solar panel design if you wish, but we will see in a few weeks whether it works. Thanks for watching. Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, give us a thumbs up.